stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Who is able to make war with him?
Dlaczego mogę siedzieć w ciepłym pomieszczeniu, na wygodnym fotelu, obżerać się tłustymi chipsami i enjoyować ten pokazuje i objaśnia piękny widok. Tak nie wygląda wielki ucisk. Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda. Ok? Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda. Tak w ogóle ucisk nie wygląda.
This is World War III. So, it appears as though one of the largest cities in Ukraine is being liquidated of its human resources as we speak. A mass exodus from the city is underway. Now, this is based on the limited amount of information that we have coming out of Ukraine, because it's very tightly controlled, as all democracies are nowadays. Of course, it's illegal to upload video, but the one video that I've caught wind of that appears to be legit, that is circulating around right now, is showing jam-packed, ass-to-ass, gridlock corridors outside the city. People trying to get the hell out of Dodge while they still can. It's so bad, in fact, that you have people driving on the wrong side of the road in the inbound to the city traffic lanes trying to get out right now. People are not succumbing to the normalcy bias that's seen a lot of people trapped at the beginning of this war, because they listened to the Ukrainian government, who said, don't worry, there's not a war coming. This, of course, because they didn't want to impede military maneuverability and logistics routes. And of course, they needed to trap manpower there to throw as cannon fodder into the front lines. And that's just a hard reality that everybody is coming to terms now. It's now well within the Overton window to say that out loud. Now, as we speak, since Russia unofficially declared a war by first referring it to it as a war, Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary for Vladimir Putin, on the same day of the Crocus terrorist attacks in Moscow, for the first time framed this as a war. And since that time, Russia has been heavily targeting Ukraine's critical infrastructure, in particular their power grids and their telecommunications networks. Now most of Ukraine is dependent on Starlink for internet, and a lot of the country is blacked out, including Kharkov. Now, it appears as though what the Russians are trying to do is shape a situation where they can encircle Kharkov, possibly do a full-scale invasion, but that's going to be big because, of course, this city, when in its peacetime population, is around 1.2 million people, I believe. Very big city, 15 to 20 times bigger in population than was the city of Bakhmut. I'm not sure how dug in it is. I don't know how many Cold War era bunkers, how many Azovstal type steel plants and tunnel networks there is to hide under there. But that could be one hell of a protracted, bloody battle if it actually takes place. I'm sure that the Russians are going to try to take it through some other means so they don't have to go block by block, because if they do, that is going to be a nasty one. Now, the Ukrainian government, unfortunately, has a vested interest in keeping as many people there as possible. I don't know if this was a government decree evacuation order. Again, information is limited. I'm guessing people are leaving the city of their own volition. They don't want to succumb to that normalcy bias that had them trapped there in Kiev, where, you know, everybody who wasn't militant had a gun put in their hand so that they could be the poster child of a Time magazine article to win international sympathy, and you know how the whole thing went. Unless Ukraine at this point in time gets some windfall of financial support from the West, then it's over. And I think this guy right here, Zelensky, knows that. And when I say it's over, all I mean is that they're going to hand the keys to NATO. Okay, so that doesn't mean the war is over. In fact, that means the war is just getting started. What you're seeing right now, very covertly, is Zelensky is turning over his entire cabinet. Every single day, I read about another 5 to 10 people that he is relieving of their positions and putting new people in the government, almost as if to give them like paid extended vacations, sabbaticals, other jobs in diplomatic positions around the world or in adjacent countries, almost as if they're starting to build a government in exile. They're getting ready to hand NATO the keys. Maybe they think in their mind that this new skeleton crew that they're throwing in there is going to have better bargaining potential and that they're going to be able to hoodwink the Russians with Minsk 3.0 or whatever it is they cook up next. But it starts to look like this could be what's happening.
All right, we have a major red alert that was just issued from the Texas Health Department. The World Health Organization is watching this. The U.S. government, the White House, released a report saying that they have their best scientists closely monitoring this situation. In fact, what we're seeing happen with the first ever human case of avian influenza that was passed over from cattle, from a cow, we are watching one of the trigger events to what could be leading to a global pandemic of absolutely enormous and catastrophic proportions. If it ever happens this way, with a 30% fatality rate, you will never see the world again past 2024 in the way that you saw it leading up to here. Even the great pandemic, the 1918 pandemic, it's just going to overshadow this. The amount of destruction that this would cause would be horrendous. This is one of those, series of events. We have the bridge attack. We have, and maybe it wasn't an attack, but it's definitely going to affect the supply chain. We have the attacks on multiple points of infrastructure across the USA. The recent hacking and attacks on cell phones. We have the warehouses, the food warehouses that were attacked. Then we have the Russian events that are going on, what's happening there, what China has said that they're willing to do. This is something worth watching. If you need to, I would suggest topping off your staple goods, your flour, your sugar, your oats, things like that. Definitely your rice. Put them in 5-gallon buckets if you need to. If it says HDPE2 on the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket, that means it's food grade safe. It's going to last in there for a very long time. If you want to last it for years, you're going to need to Mylar bag it or vacuum seal it with some sort of oxygen absorber. So Texas health departments have issued a red alert. This was after the first ever human case of avian influenza in Texas crossed over from cattle. Bird flu has now jumped to cows. The FDA is warning against drinking any raw milk, we've seen this before, across the country. Bird flu has now crossed species barriers for the first time, infecting dairy cattle in multiple states of the United States of America. We do see cattle ranchers saying that their sick cattle are showing alarming symptoms. Milk production has dropped. The disease is spreading from birds to cows, now from cow to cow, and maybe from cow to human in what could be a synchronous or maybe a continual spread. The FDA issued a quote saying, "Our long-standing position is that unpasteurized raw milk can harbor dangerous microorganisms. These could pose serious health risks to consumers. We are reminding consumers of the risk associated with this and do not basically consume it." Now remember, Russia, a couple of months ago, maybe it was even a year ago now, they put out that dossier, that entire PDF. They said, look, this is what the Western world is trying to do. And in it, they had diagrams showing that Western laboratories were attempting to make bird flu, avian influenza, able to spread across the species barrier. They would send it on migratory birds across Europe. They would mostly affect certain regions, and then people who were in line with the West would be able to afford the vaccine or have access to the vaccine, and they would be able to stop it from infecting their cattle, their chickens, their ducks, their human beings. This is next generation biological warfare if it's happening.